Imagine right now that somebody's sitting down as a musician at a piano, and for so many years they're just playing the same note, the same key, ding, 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 the same one, the same note, the same note, the same note of the same story, blaming other people, the same note. I'm playing the same note. What would it be like to play this note? What would it be like to play this note? What would it be like to play this note? They leaked stories. Let's say that was the truth. They leaked stories. Licked, not licked. They licked, not licked, not with the tongue. Not like this. It's the other one. When you have an accent, it's very difficult to be able to say lick or leaked. Leaked. So they leaked stories. What stories would they be leaking about you because you don't have any interesting stories that painted as a villain? That would give me so much to work with. I would say, what kind of villainous dimensions you have as the character. Dreams. You also have to be realistic, and you also have to live in reality to be able to implement the imaginary, to bring it to the characters. Spare. Every story has been already told. What makes a story interesting, captivating? How do you present it to the public in a way that's never been done before? But no, how can you expect to have from Prince Harry a different way of telling of the story? There's no originality, there's no authenticity. It's about him now. There are 2 interviews that he's doing before the book comes out. The one that he's doing with Anderson Cooper, the CNN reporter, they're dressed exactly the same with different colors of sweaters. Why would you dress the same? I mean, these are like such simple things. If you want to come out, beginning with the outdoor appearances that you would consider in a production with the characters, the costume and the costume designers are important because that's the first glimpse that you have of the character. And then Prince Harry goes on to say, they painted, again, the institution. He uses the language of the institution. He doesn't want to say family, because if you say family, it's going to take away from the story that he doesn't have. He focuses on words that are going to reach people. He was painted, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know exactly, as the villain. That is such a beautiful description when it comes to one's imagination. When somebody says that as an actor, if you were painted, which sounds so beautiful, it's almost like I'm imagining a villain with different dimensions and different nuances in representing who he is, with different surprises as the character. That would be a new way of telling the story. And if I were to see Prince Harry show us the villainous side, I would be a little bit interested, right? Because it would be something different. It makes me want to scream. They cannot even be in practice showing us what the villainous part of who they are is. We would be a little bit interested, because that would mean they are kind of saying, you know what, we're not perfect. We might consider the royal family, the institution, to be the monsters that are chasing us, and we have to run to freedom. But at the same time, we are not perfect people. Use the words and the phrases you are attaching yourselves to, which you think are going to give us punches into the gut because they're going to be so revelatory. Use them and produce actions. You're showing us the same boring side, one note, behavior. Interesting, because if you have someone to fight against without just talking about fighting against somebody, without having any kind of actions to prove that's what's happening, is just a simple narration. It's as if somebody was reading a book at home, and we wouldn't need actors to portray the story, because we can just sit at home and read the book or read the script. Why would we want actors to be in movies and portray characters based on real stories if we already can read the script? Because we don't want to just read the script. We want the interpretation of those characters, of those actors that portray those characters, to come and to use their imagination, to use themselves, to use their mind, to use their interesting back story and put it together with a dreamlike scenario and imagination and bring the story to life. Even if that was the case, you should be thankful they did it, because that would mean they thought that your stories would be captivating, and they're not. So this villainous word that you put into your trailer of your interview from the beginning, which you think is going to bring audiences, I and Meghan were painted to be the villains. There's no villainous active documentation in them. So it loses its meaning, because if you don't put something in action, it just remains like a reading of something that's of no interest to anybody, especially having talked about it for so long, not having the creativity to be able to come up with a different way of telling the story. Going back to what I said in the beginning, if you're going to tell a story which is the same, it doesn't matter that you're a royal, it doesn't matter you're a prince, it doesn't matter you're a B-list actress, we're going to need to have a new telling of the story in the way that you present the story for it to be interesting, because that's what interesting creative people do. They're not telling different stories, they're telling the same story, but they're telling it in a new way to watch it as if we've never seen it before, even though it has to do with the same thing that it's already been done. Silence is betrayal. I'm sure it was Meghan who put it into his head. Really, if you were to do a comparison between the two of them, which one is less interesting? It's hard to say, because that's how they came together, trying to get the spark between the two of them that's going to ignite some kind of interesting dynamic activity between the two of them, because by themselves individually they have nothing. They're so boring. No, silence is not betrayal. As characters working on different characters, the lines sometimes will take away from the power. Pausing will be so much more powerful than any dialogue. Silence means you have confidence in yourself. You know what the other character is going on about. Doesn't even matter. So you are not even going to give that any sort of attention. It's hard to pause. Try pausing for more than a couple of minutes. It's hard because we feel like we have to prove ourselves over and over again. When you see a personality, when you see a character that has gotten to a point where they can just live in a long pause, that will captivate anybody watching that character, because it will give us the teaching or the lesson for us to say, you know what, if I take a pause and I learn to do that more in my life, maybe I will feel that same confidence. The book is going to be more about going after his brother, Prince William, and Princess Catherine. Already it is showing that them staying silent and not lowering themselves to their level. Majority of the people, especially in England, are with Princess Catherine and Prince William. I don't know about here in the States. Here, for Netflix to keep handing these boring, characterless a platform, I would think that as audience members, we would want better of people who are given a platform at the level of Netflix. They are relying on their titles, Duke and Duchess. Isn't it funny how everything they sign off on, they use Duke and Duchess, but at the same time, they're trying to pretend those titles do not matter. They are people without characters. Theory is so boring and everybody can talk, but very few people can do. If any other character would be talking without giving any actions to their talk, they would not be given the same platform. The audiences would want more out of them. These characters, even in a fictional situation, would not be believable. You will not find these characters to have any character, if that makes any sense. A story told the same way, going with the same thing, going with the same thing, going with the same thing, the same boring without any kind of imaginative way of doing it differently. It's going to be left up to us, the audience, to be able to get to that smarter part of our brain and say, it's about time to stop, you know? Thank you so much. Happy New Year.